Okay, we're going to try this again. See if we can get through this. If you were able to join us a while ago, I appreciate you jumping back on here as we shared the 5 tips to choosing your networking events. We have a little bit of interruption at the door, so I apologize for that. We are right back on, and we're going to talk about this. So one of the things I want to talk about is joining too many events, and if time management. And I can tell you, most of the time when I'm working in a workshop with professionals or I'm working with clients, the number one challenge that most professionals, most entrepreneurs, most people who are in charge of the sales or the growth of their business will tell you that their number one challenge is time management. So always tell everyone, then you've got to go in and really evaluate what it is, where are you putting your time, where do you want to put your time, and begin to evaluate that. So one of the things that, because I do believe you have to get out there and let people know who you are, you need to get out there and meet new people from the industries that they're in so that you can do prospective opportunities for building strategic alliances. Okay, remember, I don't encourage you to go to networking events to sell. I encourage you to go to networking events to evaluate opportunities to connect your business with another industry, another professional who have the opportunity to recommend and introduce you to your target market. And that's really what these networking opportunities are all about. So we want to get you out there, but at the same time, we don't want you joining too many, too many of these events. Don't stretch yourself and feel like every single day, if you look at your work week, that you're running to 4 or 5 or 6 different networking activities. And believe it or not, there are some of you that is your challenge. Like I go to every networking event that I see, or if I can look out on Facebook and networking, pictures that come up, and there are guaranteed a few people in the community that we're going to see at every single event. And I always sit there thinking, the back of my mind is, when do they ever have time to actually work, in their business, to serve their client base, to follow up with the people they've already met? And, so there's just some follow-up techniques I just feel that can fall through the cracks if you're trying to just attend so many events. Remember, it's all about creating that visibility, but if that's all you're doing is just recreating visibility opportunity over and over and over again, then what happens is you're not allowing yourself time to actually build on potential relationships, to actually get to know each other, to put the time, same time, but put it in a different avenue, to make it more of a strategy for your business rather than something that quite frankly, I have a lot of people say they attend events and they don't really get the results back from it. Well, just showing up to something is just a piece of your strategy. It shouldn't be your entire strategy. So make sure when you're evaluating your time, your commitments to these events, that you're not out of balance there. Okay, so that would be one of the things you want to do. So the other thing is, when you're going out there and you're choosing the type of events you want to join, do your research ahead of time. Okay, do your research ahead of time. Know the purpose of that group. If it's a nonprofit, go ahead and know how often, are they meeting? Is there volunteer hours that the members are required to do? Are you required to get, to be on a leadership role, on a committee, on a board? Like, do your homework beforehand. If the group has a certain affiliate to a certain political party, to a particular religion, if it's tied to anything else, like, you need to know ahead of time, because here's the deal: you're potentially joining their group, and you need to know their purpose. And the second part of this is knowing their policies, because once you are saying that you'd want to participate in, you shouldn't come in and begin to try to change what their purpose is, what their policies are. You're plugging into their system. So do your homework ahead of time. Know their purpose, know what they're about, so that you can make an informed decision. Does it align with your purpose? Does it align with your vision? Because it's very important to make sure that you're going, that it's going to enhance your business and you feel comfortable there. And years ago, here's a true example. Years ago, I had people that would join the organization that we were running, and then they would get in and say, we want to be able to do this in the meeting, or we want to change the agenda, or we want to be this. And I always felt like such the bad guy as the person coming in and saying, that's not our organization. And it's not necessarily that what they wanted was bad, good, or indifferent. It's just that it wasn't what we were about. And so it really, it's one of those things that over the years you begin to recognize that, doing your research ahead of time is huge. Which leads us to the third tip. Know the policies of the group that you're thinking about joining. It's okay to make a phone call to ask questions, because if there's an attendance policy, if there's, again, policies for things that you have to, participation, expectations, these are things that you need to know ahead of time. How, is there a financial investment to it? Ask all of these questions. And the biggest thing is, it's not that, so if you get in, if it doesn't work, you get out. It's really to keep your credibility high, right? Because the last thing you want to do is to get into an organization and you're the one that's breaking the policies, or you're not doing what everyone else is doing. And so what it is, it's kind of like you're rowing the boat in the opposite direction. And it's really hard. You're still visible, right? But now always people think, well, if I'm not there, I'm just invisible. That's not true. You're visible, but it's a negative. Okay, so instead of adding positive points to the board, you're actually creating negative impressions, negative visibility points. And when you are trying to build up, for people to rely on you, for people to actually recommend or introduce you, the last thing you want is for them to have a negative thought process attached to you. Okay, so know the purpose, know the policies, and make sure that you can make that commitment. Okay, that you can actually make the commitment. To do less than that is actually could hurt your business. For over the years of running, obviously, networking events, I used to find that people would want to join something, and then I would just shake my head, because then they would do everything possible to create such a negative environment around them that I would think, gosh, you would have been better off by never joining our group. And so, hey, Jill. So one of the things that you want to do is know the purpose, know the policies, make sure your commitment is there. And then it leads us to our fourth tip. Our fourth tip is when you do join, okay? So when you get involved and you know the policies, you know how you're supposed to show up, one of the two areas is people will overcommit. Okay, like they just want to jump in, or they want to be a part of it, so they think, well, I'll be on this committee, I'll do this. And I always tell everybody that most people lead with their heart, like they really want to do this, but they haven't sat down and really made a good evaluation of their time or their skill sets. Okay, so make sure you're aligning when you commit to something that it really fits your personality style. For instance, I used to always share, if you're not a morning person, or you're someone who arriving on time is a challenge, then you don't want to volunteer for a committee that's on the greeters, that's going to welcome people, that you have to be there before other people. If you find that telling people, implementing policies isn't your strongest suit, then you don't want to be on a committee that has to deal with membership issues. If So you really want to make sure not to overcommit yourself, because what happens is when you commit, okay, think about that. When you commit to a board, a committee, I don't even care if it's a one-time event committee. When you make that commitment, then people are relying on you. You're saying, hey, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do my part. And in my mind, when I create events, and I say this all the time, I expect 100% that everyone who says they're going to do this is going to do it at 100%. And so, that's my expectations of my committees, of my people. And so when people are less than that, okay, and granted, I have some grace there, right? Just like most people. But what we're talking to, and most people right now are picturing someone in their head. I know it. It's happened, right? That 80% that doesn't do the work and the 20% that does. You never want to be in that negative thought process where, oh, they signed up for this committee and they're never there. They're never on time. They never follow through, or we're always having to wait on them to get their part in. That is, you may think that it only affects that group, but you are so wrong, because what people do is that's the association that they have with you and how you run your business, that you're never on time, you don't get your stuff there, you're a negative person, you're unreliable. And so what happens is that perception to them is your reality, okay, with how they are going to potentially refer you or tell people about you. The last thing you ever want is, if they do recommend you, is for them to add the but, or the however, or let me warn you about this, or this may happen. Anytime that negative is attached to the positive, it diminishes it. So, again, make sure that you're committing at the level that you can perform at your highest, because again, you're lifting up that credibility, you're lifting up that positive association that is tied with your name, your profession, your industry, your company. Okay, so you're increasing all of that. The other thing is, step into a role if you need to. There's a lot of people, that are out there that, they want to just kind of come in and do surface level, and they have the time to commit, but they don't want to do it. Like, it's okay, we'll let everybody else do the work, I'm just joining to join. Don't be one of those people. Like, tiptoe in a little bit further into this. You will begin to see that if you can make a commitment to be on something, whether or not it's you've got the time, you can show up in positive. If by joining into these smaller segments within larger networks, it allows you to get to know other people better. It allows you, okay, this is a word of mouth marketing, it allows you more opportunity to exchange words, to get to know people, to get to know who they know, have the opportunity to let them know more about you than just your name and your company name. Like, they really can have that opportunity to learn more about the way that maybe you run your team, the way that you love to think about your customer service, the way that what your target market looks like. The opportunity is there. It increases the more involved you get. So again, it's this balancing act that you have to create when you choose the networking opportunities that you're in. Don't overcommit, but we don't want to undercommit also. So you want to find that right balance that puts you in the best positive light going forward. Now, the fifth tip here, and this one is near and dear to my heart, and look at networking activities again as prospective opportunities to build strategic alliances. Okay, so when you're walking into the room, and I've shared this many times, know before you go. I don't care if you sit in your car for a few minutes before you go in. I'm hoping, if you've been watching here at Inspired Nation, that you've already kind of graphed out a little bit for each of your target markets, potential referral industries that you could align your business with, strategic alliance industries that you would like to develop. So if in my mind I'm evaluating the networking event that I'm going to, I've chosen the right event based on, that I think it fits my strategy, the way I'm going forward with my vision. And so I've got a list of industries that I would love to connect with based on the target market that I would like to work with. And, I have different target markets, and therefore I could have different lists that I'm looking at. But I have taken the time to bring into focus a list of industries, or it could be positions people hold. Maybe it's they're, the marketing director, or they are, depending on not necessarily the company they work for that makes them a target or referral partner for you, but the position they hold, like HR manager. And so have that attribute in your head before you walk in the door, okay? And when you walk in the door, instead of looking around that room for people who could be potential target markets for you, instead go in with the mindset of who could I be looking for to align my business with, to invite to a strategy session to see whether or not we could develop a referral relationship down the road. So when you do that, especially if you're an introvert, this allows you to take a deep breath, right? Because you're sitting there thinking, oh, I don't have to have that elevator speech ready to pull out when I talk to someone. In fact, I will tell you that the more you're more likely to have success, to walk away from an event and feel like you've had success if you go in thinking about connecting with potential referral partners rather than I have to make a sale because I've attended this event. And so, leave the sales mode. Unless someone just absolutely is sitting right there, tell me what you do. I'm interested in what you do because I need I need to learn more because I'm thinking about that product or service for myself. But most people in a normal networking event aren't coming up to you and say, hey, this is a great time, sales pitch. And, instead, people are really connecting as business professionals. So once you have that list in mind, this is kind of a little bonus here. I'll share my always get a yes since we had to jump off earlier because of the dog barking. This is when I begin to prep for my always get a yes scenario, right? So I have a goal to meet other business professionals that I would, that I've come up with that I believe work with my same target market, okay? And then what I do is when I have that opportunity to exchange business cards. Now, I always tell everybody this is why I like to wear blazers with pockets because I really don't like to carry in my pocketbook. So I like to have my business card in one hand and my handshake ready. I've got my name tag on. Very rarely will you ever see me with a plate or a beverage in my hand, something that would impede me from being able to exchange my business card or shake hands. I think one of the most important tools you can take in is your smile. So you want to make sure you have that positive forward, attitude coming from you. And so be ready to exchange your business card and shake hands. Now, one of the things I do is always ask for their business card first. I never assume that someone just wants my business card, so I ask for their card first. I take the time to read it. Most of the time that triggers them to ask for mine. So then I have been given permission to exchange my card to them. Make sure you read their card, okay? And this is a good time. If you see that their name may be challenging, then ask them. I always say, pronounce your name for me real quick. And then, of course, I keep a little small Sharpie in my pocket, so when they walk away, I can write on the back how I would pronounce their name or a trick or something so that I know that I can pronounce it correctly the next time I meet them. So I've got their information in their card. I am immediately evaluating whether or not I think their business, their position would be on that list of people that I would like to move forward with. You're going to meet a lot of people at networking events. A lot of people aren't going to be on your immediate list, okay? But when you have that opportunity to meet someone that you think that you share the same target market, ask them. Instead of asking them, what do you do, say, do you mind telling me, I see that you have most services, we know what they do. Tell me about what your target market looks like. If you could describe your ideal client for me, what would that look like? And go ahead and establish this is a business conversation about target markets, or who would you like to get in front of? And when you hear someone mirror image what you're looking for, then you always get a yes and say, that's interesting that that's your target market. I also work with people who, and you would say it and say, would you be open to us getting together and following up with one another? Because I also work with those target markets. And when given a chance to be able to recommend your product or services, I need to be more comfortable. I need to know more about you. Is there a chance for us to get together, for us to learn more about one another, so that when I have that opportunity, I feel comfortable doing so? May I call you to set up time for us to get together over coffee or follow up? I can tell you that this is why I call it always get a yes. I've never gotten a no from someone who says, hey, I think we might share the same target market. If I could get to know you a little bit better and I could feel more comfortable about you, that I would have that opportunity to recommend your product or services when and if the opportunity arises. There's no promises there. It's an opportunity to explore. And that's what setting up strategy sessions. And of course, we here at Inspired call it the introductory strategy session. And ultimately, you'd want to take them through the I, T, and S, from introductory to training to eventually being a strategic strategy session with one another, where referrals are starting to generate for one another. So here's my tips for today. I think networking activities are a must when you're building your referral marketing strategy, but there are some roadblocks and challenges that could come along with it. So I hope today I've been able to share with you just a few tips and different ways of looking at those challenges, finding the solution. But here's the biggest thing: get up, get out there, and get growing. I'm telling you, 2020 can be amazing. Referral marketing is an incredible way to grow your business, but you have to get out there and begin to exchange words and create those opportunities of visibility, so that you ultimately can create a referral strategy for your business. Thank you guys for your patience and joining in here today. If you're watching this on replay, remember, we want you guys to share who you are, where you're at, and your link to your Facebook pages. We encourage you guys to do that on this post, so that we can go out there, click it, and invite other people to learn more about you. I'm Amy D. Kilpatrick, and thank you for joining me today for our Tips on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock.